What's going on, everybody? I am the Kilted Cage, and welcome back to my channel. And lately, I've been getting a lot of, I've seen a lot of questions on my posts and whatnot. I say a lot. That's not a lot. Keep on getting the question. If you don't like it, why are you watching? Why don't you go watch something that you do like? Well, I'm here tonight to review tonight. Oh Lord, tonight, today, this morning, depending on when you watch this video. I'm here to review Episode 2 of Anne Rice Interview with the Vampire on AMC. Episode 2, titled After the Phantoms of Your Former Self. Now, I think that's a pretty appropriate title, honestly. Episode 2, we kick off after Louis has become a vampire. Now, I'll go ahead and say this. If you have not watched it, go watch it. I don't want to spoil anything for you. I will say this. It's worth it. It's definitely worth it. It's worth the watch. Each episode is about 50 minutes long. Yes, do yourself a favor and give it a watch. If you're a fan of Anne Rice, if you're a fan of the original, this does a pretty decent job. I genuinely believe that. Despite, like I said in my first video, despite the obvious changes, I still think this is pretty good. I'll go over a few bits and pieces. I'm going to go over spoilers. I'm going to go over what I believe this episode was about. I believe episode 1 gave us a little glimpse into Louis and Lestat, how they met, Louis' former life as a mortal, New Orleans, how he came to become a vampire, his struggle, his brother's death, his mother's rejection, and all these other things, to give you some insight into Louis' mortal life. Now, this episode, we get into the beginning of Louis' immortal life. His relationship. I'll go ahead and give you the spoiler warning in 3, 2, 1. This is your last chance. We're going to get into spoilers. Obviously, I like the episode. I like where this is going. I like the show. It's very entertaining. The atmosphere is fantastic. But this episode goes into the beginnings of Louis' immortal life, his life as a vampire, how him struggling with being a killer, because he is a killer, he is a vampire. He must kill the mortal and drink their blood in order to survive. Or it doesn't really have to kill him, but, you know. So, but what it also goes into is you get to see the relationship between Lestat and Louis. And I think they do a fantastic job, just like in the first episode. In this episode, it delves deeper into Louis as a vampire, Lestat as a vampire, his loves. Excuse me. Wow, I was trying to hold on to that one. It's almost to the point where they fight like lovers, like they are in a romance. Lestat comes across as genuinely loving Louis. Louis, the actor continues his pretty much imitation. Jacob Anderson's continuing to do his job, mimicking Brad Pitt's voice from the original movie. And honestly, say what you want, I like it. I think that's a pretty decent touch. Sam Reed, again, absolutely stellar as Lestat. His presence, his personality, his charisma. He does a great job with everything. Again, I got to get rid of this cough. We get a little insight into Rashid, played by Assad Zaman. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I'm a Kunas. Come on, give me a break. But Rashid, I would qualify him based on my knowledge of my knowledge and experience with Vampire the Masquerade, the old White Wolf game. I would say that Rashid is a ghoul. He is Louis' ghoul. He probably is pretty old, a lot older than he looks, of course, because, you know, but he more than likely he feeds off of Lestat. Jesus Christ, I'm scattered. Off of Louis' blood. It would not surprise me in the least. But Malloy tries to ask him a few questions, what their relationship is, what the relationship is between Louis and Rashid. But Rashid keeps deflecting it and everything, and proclaims that he serves a god. So he sees Louis, the vampire, as a god, an immortal being of power. So just a little bit of insight there. I thought that was a pretty decent touch, you know. But I don't know if I'm going to go through. We show up. The episode opens up with Lestat disposing of the priest's bodies and Louis coming to terms, his body pretty much dying. The pain, the I believe in the movie Louis was buried because he was dead. In this one, they're just walking through the cemetery in order to bury the bodies of the priests to dispose of them. It's pretty convenient. And it goes a little, Louis is retching and heaving and going through the pain and anguish, and all of a sudden everything clicks, almost like you're eating. Never mind, I'm not going to go there. His body suddenly has this realization. He can see everything much clearer, and he's just happy and ecstatic. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. We're going to go back to that one. So, there's a good bit, walk through the cemetery and everything. And it's the teaching moments. Lestat teaching Louis restraints and how to go on the hunt. And, who to pick, why to pick them, why not to pick them. Trying to keep it down to people that aren't going to be missed. Louis wants to go after a sailor on leave, but Lestat has to stop him, restrain him, explain to him that, come morning he will be missed. So they go after this poor tractor salesman who's in the middle of a bar. They lure him back to Lestat's house and drinky. That's the end of him. Naturally, just like before, Louis is distraught. He is upset. And he doesn't want to come to terms with what he is becoming. He's struggling with it, almost retching and feeling disgusted. The feel and taste of blood on his lips and in his gums and everything. But it goes on. His newfound strengths, his newfound weaknesses, he discovers. Pushes. He wants to go home. He wants to go back to his mortal life to try and do whatever, and doesn't realize it, but tosses Lestat across the room, and Lestat lets him leave to discover the sun for himself, his little weakness. So, little things that he's trying to teach him, and of course, Louis goes back to the house after realizing that he's going to burn to death. Lestat, of course, lets him in, and they sleep in the coffin. The whole cliche that's in it, of course. The next day, or I don't even know if it's the next day. It doesn't really. A lot of time has passed. So he goes back and visits the house. His sister's upset because it's been so long since she's seen him, and there's a couple of time jumps in the episode to the point of his sister having twins. They grow up, and his sister having another son after that. So there's a couple of time jumps, but Louis learns how to read minds, and he reads his mother's mind, and there's a little controversy there. But at one point, I thought it was rather funny and a decent touch. Louis and Lestat argue over something. They have a lover's spat. And it was a rather comical part in the episode where they're both sleeping in their coffins, and Lestat says, "I don't want to go to sleep angry." And I chuckled. I thought it was a decent touch. It's cheesy, but it gives you, I think it puts, I don't know, it puts some insight into their relationship. Lestat genuinely cares about Louis, and Louis seems to care about Lestat. They have fallen in love. These little things, the struggle with the relationship, the love, the hate, and Louis coming to terms. That's essentially what this episode was about. Lestat helps Louis buy what's a good word? The higher priced brothel that Ivy worked at. He ends up buying it. He lets he opens it up to anyone willing to spend money. And towards the end of the episode, Lestat gets tickets to an opera. And you see a little insight into Lestat's character, his love of music, his love of the opera, how it just mesmerizes him, and it just makes him happy. At least until one of the tenor is a horrible singer when it offends Lestat to the point where Lestat wines him and dines him and takes him back to the home and kills him for the simple offense of shitty singing. So this is the kind of person Lestat is. He picks his prey, he's meticulous about it, and oh well. All in all, just like the first episode, I think this episode was fantastic. Genuinely fantastic. Like I said in the beginning, the first episode was Louis as a mortal, establishing his past life and how he met Lestat and Lestat's motives here and there. This episode was Louis becoming a vampire and coming to terms with what he was, what a killer. Another thing that both episodes do. This is concerning the number one change, the race change. Choosing Jacob Anderson as Louis. Some people will complain. Of course, you will always have people online complaining, oh, they're doing this for this reason, that reason. I don't see this change as an ideological reason. Simply because I wouldn't say it's harped on, but it is brought up in the story. I want to say, let's see, Louis became a vampire, I think it was in the 1700s, late 1700s, 1790s. So we're probably early 1800s by this time. And regardless of what part of the country you were in, there in New Orleans, regardless of what part of the country you're in, there was some racial turmoil. Black people were looked down upon. The story uses that to build Louis' character, his anger, his animosity, and his struggle with his newfound power and him looking down upon. It actually plays a part with someone who is trying to build up, I guess, his second brothel or something. He ends up killing the guy. Someone who is well known, which was part of the reason why they had a little lover spat, and Lestat didn't want to go to bed angry. But I think it does a good job using the racial tensions in the 1800s, late 1700s, as part of the story. It's not overdone. It's not overblown. So it's done well. It's not, the word's not heavy-handed. They did it with care and appropriate for the time period that the first two episodes take place. So I will commend it for that. Jacob Anderson, again, does a great job as Louis, with his voice in the current day, and the accent of the time in the 1800s. Also, Sam Reed, again, his presence is phenomenal, fantastic. Playing Lestat, the power, the charismatic vampire, just able to sweet talk Louis and of course the other prey that's necessary. So 2 episodes down, 2 thumbs up, absolutely. If you haven't watched it, I recommend you do. I did not go over all the spoilers. It's a story. They are telling a story, and I think they're doing it in a fantastic job. I can't wait for the 3rd episode. It gives me something to essentially reset my brain, because She-Hulk comes out at the time of recording. She-Hulk comes out in an hour and a half. And there's only 2 episodes left of that, so I'll have that to look forward to. But don't need that one. Ladies and gentlemen, I am the Kilted Cajun. If you like what I had to say, please leave a like, leave a comment, leave a dislike if you think I'm full of shit. But thank you for sticking around this long. I hope to see you on the next one. Bye.